Give me that. Let us look at the next example. We got 7x to the exponent of 4, y times 3x cubed y. I'm going to highlight coefficients. I'll leave them blank. Coefficients, I'll just leave them blank, and I will highlight the variables. So you multiply black with black, red with red, green with green. What is 7 times 3? 7 times 3 will give you 21. And the rate, which is x times x, because we're multiplying the same variable, you will just add the exponents. So x times x, you write it as x, and then you add the exponents, which will be 4 plus 3. And with y, you will multiply y with y, same variable, then you add the exponent. Please note that the exponent of the second y is 1. When the exponent is not written, just know that it is 1. This will give you 7 times 3, as I said, will be 21. And you will add 4 with 3 as the exponent of x, and then you will add 2 with 1 as the exponent of y. This will give you 21x to the exponent of 7, y to the exponent of 3. Try this one out. The same thing will apply here. You start with the coefficients or the integers. 7 times 3 times 2. That'll give you 42. X squared times x to the exponent of 4 times x to the exponent of 3. You will write it as x, and then you will add 2 plus 4 plus 3. And similarly with y, you will pretty much do the same thing. The first y has an exponent of 1. So it will be 1 plus 2 plus 4. This will give you 42x to the exponent of 9, y to the exponent of 7. That's it. Remember the rule. First multiply the coefficients. When multiplying the same variable, represent them as a one variable and then add the exponent. Try this one out. What do we get? 4 times -3 will give you -12. Remember, we're multiplying here. When you multiply the x's, you'll write it as a single x, and then you add the exponents. The exponent of x will be the sum of 3 and 1, which will be 4, and the exponent of y will be the sum of 2 and 5, which will be 7. So the answer will be -12 x to the exponent of 4 y to the exponent of 7. Remember, multiply the integers first. 3 times 7 times 2 will give you negative 42. A times A will give you A squared, and then we are left with B squared. So it will be negative 42 A squared, B squared. What do you get here? 4 times negative 2 gives you negative 8. And what about x? It will be x to the exponent of 2 plus 1, then y to the exponent of 2 plus 1. Your final answer will be negative 8 x cubed y cubed. What about this one here? 5 times 3 is 15. Then you will have a to the exponent of 3, b to the exponent of 5. This one here, what are you going to get? Negative 5 times negative 2 gives you positive 10. X cubed times x squared will give you x to the exponent of 5. And y squared times y to the exponent of 1 will give you y to the exponent of 3. Remember, negative 5 times negative 2 will give you positive. Negative times negative is positive. That's why you will get positive 10. Positive 10x to the exponent of 5, y to the exponent of 3. Remember, when you multiply same variables, you always write it as a single variable. You add the exponent. If you're multiplying different variables, x times y will be xy, a times b will be ab, c times d will be cd, a squared times b will be a squared b. When you multiply the different variables, you just make them one term. So you just write them next to each other. As I've said, a squared times b will be a squared b. You got it? But when you multiply variables that are the same, you just add the exponents. You don't multiply the exponents, you add the exponents. So x squared times x to the exponent of 3, you write it as x, and then you add 2 plus 3, which will give you x to the exponent of 5. Got that? Let's move to the next one. What is the answer to this? Anything you multiply with 0 will give you 0. What about this one here? It's same variable, so you will write it as x, and then you will take 2, add it with 3, add it with 4. So it will be x to the exponent of 2 plus 3 plus 4, and that will be x to the exponent of 9. Okay. Try these ones. Give yourself around 15 minutes. Okay, give yourself around 15 minutes to do this. Press pause right now until you're done writing all of them. Then when you're done, press play, and here are the solutions. Now let us do the distributive property. The distributive property is normally used when you multiply a monomial with either a trinomial or a binomial. So a monomial is just one term, just like here I've got 3x. That's 3x is one term outside the bracket. But inside the bracket, we've got two terms, which is x cubed plus y cubed. Can I add x cubed and y cubed? I can't because they are not like terms. However, I can multiply them with the vector that is outside the bracket, which is that 3x. You will take that 3x multiplied with the first term inside the bracket. So you will say 3x times x cubed. Inside the bracket, you've got plus, and the second term inside the bracket is y cubed. You will take the 3x that is outside the bracket and also multiply it with that y cubed. As I've said, you will take 3x times x cubed plus 3x times y cubed. The same principle applies. I'm multiplying the coefficients first. So 3 times, there's 1 here, even though we don't write it, it'll be 3. But x times x, we just write it as x and then we add the exponents, which will be 1 plus 3 and it will be 4. In the next or the second term, it will be 3 times 1, that will be 3, and then you will say x times y cubed. As I've said, these are unlike terms. Multiply unlike terms. I don't want to say unlike terms. When you multiply different variables, you just put them next to each other. So x times y cubed will just be x y cubed. Write it in alphabetical order. X, y cubed. That is because x comes before y. So your final answer here, when you multiply a monomial, remember I said a monomial is one term, a binomial is two terms. When you multiply one term with two terms, your answer will be two terms. When you multiply one term with three terms, your answer will have three terms. So here our answer will have two terms. Remember I said terms can be separated by plus and minus. So the first term will be 3x to the exponent of 4 plus 3xy cubed. Got it? Try this one if you got it. You will take 5x squared multiplied with 2x squared y. Then take the same 5x squared multiplied with x cubed. As I've said, you will take 5x squared multiplied with 2x squared y minus 5x squared multiplied with x cubed. 5 times 2 is 10. X squared times x squared will give us x squared times x squared will give us x, which will be 4, and then we'll just have y next to it. Then you'll have minus 5 times 1 will be 5. X squared times x cubed will be x to the exponent of 2 plus 3, which is just 5. You getting it? Try this one. Five x to the exponent of 5 multiplied with x cubed. 5 to the exponent of 5 multiplied with 5 to the exponent of 5 multiplied with x y cubed. So the first term will be x to the exponent of 8. So I've just multiplied these two. Now I'm going to multiply these two. Like terms, which is x and x, will give us because y is an unlike terms, we'll just write it next to x. So your answer here will be 8, will be x to the exponent of 8 plus x to the exponent of 6 times 3. That's it. Let's get to this one. Okay, the first ones, half times 2 will give you 1. X squared times x cubed will give you x to the exponent of 5, and then you have y. The second term will be half times -4 will give you -2. X squared times x cubed will give you x to the exponent of 5. So your answer will just be, remember, if the coefficient is 1, you don't need to write it. So instead of writing 1x to the exponent of 5y, you rather write it as just x to the exponent of 5y. Let us move to this one. You will have 4 times 2 is -8. X cubed times x cubed will give you x to the exponent of 6, y to the exponent of 5. That is for the first term. -4 times -1 will give you +4. X cubed times x squared will give you x to the exponent of 5. Then you have y to the exponent of 5 times y to the exponent of 3 will give you y to the exponent of 8. Remember, here the only confusion will be negative times negative. It will give you positive. Negative times positive will give you negative. Now, try these exercises. And we will mark them in the next video. Awesome.